to hear the jailer turn the key and push the door. "Get out here," he shouted, but I laid there on the floor, frozen in the terror that arose and filled my brain, for I knew what they intended, could not face the pain. Then soldiers came into the cell and dragged me to the yard. They threw me down before a cross and brought the whip down hard. "Carry it," they shouted as I struggled to my feet. I put my shoulder under it, stumbled through the street, and I struggled through a wall of screams as they drove me toward the gate. And it seemed that thousands lined the street, their voices filled with hate, like a wolf pack in the night that moves in for the kill. They closed the gap and followed us as we started up the hill. And it seemed we'd barely reached the top when they grabbed me from behind, and they threw the cross down under me and tied the ropes that bind the arms close to the beams as they nailed the feet and hands, and they raised the cross up in the air and dropped it in its stand. Through a blur of pain, I saw the cross there next to mine. There were people all around it, so I looked to read the sign, and it was nailed there up above his head, so the world could see the news that the man who seemed so helpless there was the King of all the Jews. And the crowd that stood around the cross made jokes about his name, and they shouted, laughed, and spat on him, so I joined in the game. I said, "Hey, if you're the king, why don't you get us down from here?" The taunt just sounded hollow, and it echoed in my ear, 'cause he looked at me with eyes that seemed to reach into my heart, and it threw a light on all my lies and tore my life apart. There was more that lay behind that gaze than simply blood and clay, but knowing was too much for me. I had to look away, and I glanced another look at him while he was looking down, and the soldiers who just crucified us drank there on the ground. And although he spoke them quietly, somehow his words came through. He said, "Father, please forgive them, for they don't know what they do." Well, as if they heard him speaking, the crowd began to roar, whips to frenzy by the priests who urged them on to more. But the worse the accusations now, the plainer I could see the guilt of the accusers, not the one there next to me. And the man upon the other cross began to curse and swear, and his voice was filled with venom as he hurled it through the air. All the horror that was in him, and it laid his life to waste, came out in every syllable he flung in Jesus' face. And Jesus only looked at him, but something rose inside of me. Beside of all who watched us there, it couldn't be denied, because his righteousness and innocence was shining bright and strong. And I just couldn't keep my silence, and that cursing still went on. I cried out, "Don't you fear the wrath of God, even at the end. You'll curse us both into the pit. Is that what you intend? You're only getting what we're due. We've sinned our whole lives long, but don't you talk to him that way. He's done nothing wrong." own. I asked him, Lord, remember me when you come into your throne. He answered me, and even then his love was undisguised. Before the sun has set today, you'll be with me in paradise. Well, the shouts and curses did not stop even when the sunlight ceased. But somehow in the midst of it, my soul had been released. Though the agony continued, it was still too small a price to be allowed to hear those words and to die beside the Christ. Darkness turned to dawning. I heard the sound of voices. The air was warm around me. And stood beside a stream. And Abraham was speaking multitudes before him, the unfolding of the answers to our prayers and hopes and dreams. And far across the chasm came a rumbling like the thunder, and the Prince of Peace came shining. And from his mouth the power streamed, and the walls and towers crumbled.